Regency for Planning, which, as I mentioned, deals with land use, affordable housing for local workforce and transportation. They're looking to know if you have a commitment to working with this organization if you were a senator, and then tell us why or why not.
Yes, the answer is absolutely. And I just want to thank everybody for having me here, especially Lester Crown and Mary Sue Barrett. I think we face a lot of challenges in Illinois. It's my good fortune to have worked with a lot of you as a U.S. congressman. I think I want to first frame the discussion and then move on to the questions.
Okay, good, because I left a piece of paper by my seat.
Good.
I'll be right. You go on.
Let me just frame it for Lynn. We face a number of looming realities: shrinking revenues, runaway borrowing, irresponsible spending, all that threaten our long-term economic growth. Just a few quick facts to set the stage. The U.S. debt will soon eclipse our gross domestic product. A resurging Taliban and Iran's nuclear ambitions threaten global security. A collapsing Greek economy destabilized global markets. And some U.S. state governments are witnessing a collapse in their ability to sustain credit and borrow more. Now, some may wonder if I've exaggerated the last point, but I just want to show the slide up here of the latest Time magazine, which indicates the direction of state debt. I will note that Moody's just recently downgraded Illinois debt, and these realities need to be overcome. We need to see the nation's problems as adults facing this critical funding shortfall, with a prime goal of then overcoming that problem and increasing employment and incomes. To Lynn's question directly, I've worked with CMAP and its predecessor, the Northeastern Illinois Planning Commission, represent some of the best and brightest, and I want to particularly highlight Randy Blankenhorn's service to the region. Many of you know that we require a planning organization for a jurisdiction over 50,000, but it's no surprise that many times the distribution of federal funds from an office in Washington, D.C. are not efficient and do not overcome traditional boundaries, which is why a regional planning organization that can cross county, municipality, and even state boundaries is critical. I've got another slide, if you'll indulge me. It's talking about crossing boundaries. Look at the Star Line, which is one of the critical infrastructure projects that is essential for the future of the state of Illinois. This connects our job engine of O'Hare to the western suburbs in what I would regard as a critical synergy that makes a significant impact. Or the next slide, I've been a strong backer of public-private partnerships in the CREATE program. CREATE being right at the center of that nest there that you can see. And it's critical for Illinois because if you are going to compete in global markets in the 21st century, you've got to adjust to just-in-time inventory practices, and CREATE does that. Finally, we've got to upgrade our role of regional planning organizations in allocating federal funds. As a senator, I would reach across the lines and I would hope to make the tough choices so that of the federal projects we can afford, that we make the biggest difference.
Reaching across the lines, actually, this is a good line to use to transition to our next question, which has to do with the Livable Communities Act, which is very important to this organization. And as I mentioned earlier, there was a hearing on this in the Senate on the 9th. It's Senator Dodd's bill. I think he wants to leave this as a legacy action. The organization is looking to know if you support it or not. And just for background, talking about crossing lines, right now, there are no there are no Republicans on the bill, I believe, in either the House or Senate version. Right. So your thoughts, please.
I'm supportive of its goals. I've traveled across Illinois from Rockford to Cairo with a goal to learning more about regional and local needs with a special focus on generating higher incomes and more jobs. In the Quad Cities and Peoria, we learned about how critical it was to boost export policy, especially to expand employment by John Deere and Caterpillar. In Coulterville, I toured the Gateway Mine and discussed an American energy independence policy. In Rockford, talked to Mayor Morrissey about addressing his crippling concentration of unemployment and also ways to bring people to become more homeowners in Rockford. If we go to the next slide, just see that when we look at CMAP's Go-To 2040 initiative, I think this is one of the best examples of strategic development. Raise your hand, by the way, if you've read Devil in the White City. This is my kind of group, yeah. Which, as you know, is a poignant story of a crime, but also the human story of Daniel Burnham. Many of us think about the reputation of Chicago. And if you think about our reputation pre-1930s, it was really the rise of the city from the ashes, the Columbian exhibition, the legacy of Daniel Burnham. And I think this 2040 plan really reflects that legacy. If we go to the next slide, begun doing this as part of my campaign for Senate around the state. You see here our development of the Rockford agenda. Rockford we've focused on because it has an unemployment rate of nearly 20%, 1,921 public housing units, 2,100 Section 8 housing vouchers, making Rockford one of the most distressed communities in the state of Illinois. You can't bring back a city like that without action. Action by the EPA to speed up the cleanup, especially brownfield remediation. Action by HUD, specifically the Housing Choice and Voucher Program and moving to work. And especially if you look at the bottom of that chart, you'll see Rockford Airport. Rockford does have a growing synergy and center of excellence in aerospace engineering, especially the internal wiring of the aircraft of the future, which I think is critical to bringing that city back. So with the Livable Communities Act, I've been supportive of those goals, but can I just add one note of warning here? Congress does need to live within its means. Alan Greenspan delivered a critical warning to us last week. He wrote on Friday, quote, "Perceptions of a large U.S. borrowing capacity are misleading." Now, that is a key canary in the coal mine falling over. We've seen countries like Greece, Spain, Italy, and Portugal now facing a serious economic crisis because of irresponsible fiscal policies. In my view, we should make tough choices now to protect American citizens from the kind of economic future that many Europeans face. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to be laying out some further regional plans for the state of Illinois.
So my follow-up to this question is, I know when I asked you, since this will come up for a real vote, this act is not hypothetical. I heard you say you were supportive of its goals, Congressman. So when it comes time, relatively soon, to vote a yes or a no, what would your vote be?
Overwhelmingly likely to be yes. You know, when a bill is introduced, it has the possibility of changing before it gets to the House floor. And I generally have had the reputation of trying to read the legislation before making a decision on it. And it's the final legislation that you have to actually look at.
So it's
or just one more moment. As Lynn well knows, the key moment in congressional legislation is the manager's amendment, in which the bill is totally rewritten about 10 minutes before the vote.
I understand that, and just because I know we're going to move on. So I guess if we were scoring this is a lean yes?
Yeah, a lean yes.
A lean yes,
yeah,
okay.
When you lobby the Congress, oftentimes members of Congress are rated 1, 2s, 3s, 4s, or 5s. A 1 is a solid yes, and a 5 is a solid no.
And your number
Put me down as a 2. Yeah.
Okay, well, we got, and you'll hear, I'm sure, we'll know the answer soon. Now we're moving on to another question, and I know you've served on the Transportation Committee, and you've got a lot of modalities that you've dealt with through your years. So the organization here is